A father who thought he'd lost everything, a woman with a deadly secret, and a boy who never stopped believing his mother would come home. This isn't just about a cabin in the Montana woods. It's about the lies that shatter families and the love that puts them back together. What if the stranger at your door was the answer to prayers you'd stopped praying? If stories like this touch your heart, we'd be honored if you'd subscribe to join our family. And please share in the comments where you're watching from. Your words mean the world to us. Now let's begin. The wind carried secrets through the Montana pines, whispering stories of love lost and found again. In the shadow of the Bitterroot Mountains, where winter held the land in its icy grip for half the year, Jack Turner had learned that some wounds never fully heal. They just learn to wait quietly. He stood on his porch, watching 8-year-old Noah build snow forts in the yard. The boy's laughter cut through the December air like sunlight through storm clouds. Jack smiled, but the expression never quite reached his eyes. Those eyes had seen too much loss, carried too many unanswered questions. "Dad, look," Noah called, pointing to his crooked snow wall. "It's a castle for the Snow Queen." Jack's heart twisted. Noah had been talking about queens and princesses lately, weaving elaborate stories about magical mothers who lived in distant castles. The boy was 8 now, old enough to notice that other kids had mothers who picked them up from school, who braided their hair and kissed their scraped knees. "It's perfect, buddy," Jack called back, his voice rough with emotion he couldn't name. The truth was, Jack had been dreading this day for months. Noah's questions were getting harder to deflect. Last week, he'd asked why his mother left them. Jack had mumbled something about her being young and scared, but the words felt like ash in his mouth. How do you explain to a child that the woman who gave him life had vanished like morning mist, leaving behind only questions and an ache that time couldn't heal? The sound of a car engine sputtering pulled Jack from his thoughts. He looked toward the narrow mountain road that wound through the trees. Few people ventured this far into the wilderness, especially not in winter. The engine coughed, wheezed, then died completely. Silence settled over the forest like a blanket. Jack grabbed his coat and walked toward the gate, his boots crunching through the snow. A woman stood beside a broken-down sedan, her hands pressed against the hood as if she could will it back to life. She wore a thin navy coat that offered little protection against the Montana cold, and her chestnut hair fell in waves around her face. When she looked up, Jack's world tilted on its axis. The woman had eyes like storm clouds, gray and deep, holding secrets that made his chest tight. Something about her face stirred memories he'd buried so deep they'd become part of his bones. But that was impossible. The woman he'd loved was gone, had been gone for 9 years. This stranger just happened to share the same haunted beauty that had once been his entire world. "I'm sorry to bother you," she said, her voice soft but steady. "My car died, and I think I'm lost." Jack studied her face, searching for something he couldn't name. "You're not bothering anyone. Come inside and warm up. I'll take a look at your car." She hesitated, glancing back toward the sedan. "I don't want to impose." "It's no imposition," Jack said, stepping aside. "Besides, you'll freeze out here." As they walked toward the house, Jack noticed how she moved, careful, like someone who'd learned to be afraid of her own shadow. Her hands shook, but not from the cold. "I'm Jack," he said, opening the front door. "Emma," she replied, then quickly added, "Emma Rowan." The name hit Jack like a physical blow. Emma. Not his Emma. That Emma's last name had been Clark, but the coincidence made his hands tremble as he helped her out of her coat. Noah bounded into the room, snow still clinging to his mittens. "Dad, who's—" He stopped mid-sentence, staring at Emma with wide eyes. "This is Mrs. Rowan," Jack said carefully. Her car broke down. Emma knelt down to Noah's level, and Jack watched something shift in her expression. The careful mask she'd been wearing cracked just enough to reveal raw emotion underneath. "Hello," she said softly. "You must be Noah." The boy nodded, suddenly shy. "How did you know my name?" Emma's breath caught. Your father just told me. But Jack hadn't mentioned Noah's name. The realization hung in the air between them like smoke. Would you like some hot chocolate? Jack asked, breaking the tension. It's cold out there. As Emma settled into a chair by the fireplace, Jack watched her from the kitchen. She kept glancing at Noah, her eyes bright with unshed tears. The boy had returned to his toys, building elaborate structures with wooden blocks, but he kept stealing glances at their unexpected guest. You have a beautiful home, Emma said when Jack returned with steaming mugs. It's not much, Jack replied, settling into the chair across from her. But it's ours. Emma's hands wrapped around the mug like she was trying to absorb its warmth. Sometimes the simple things are the most precious. You sound like someone who knows something about complicated things. Emma's smile was sad and knowing. I've had my share. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Noah play. The fire crackled, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Outside, the wind had picked up, rattling the windows with promises of a storm. You can't drive in this weather, Jack said finally. The roads are treacherous, especially at night. Emma looked toward the window, where snow was beginning to fall in thick, heavy flakes. I don't want to impose on your family. It's just us, Jack said quietly. Has been since Noah was born. Emma's cup trembled in her hands. What happened to his mother? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Jack had deflected this question 1,000 times, but something about Emma's presence made him want to tell the truth. She left, he said simply. Never said why. One day she was there, the next she was gone. Emma's face went pale. That must have been difficult. It was harder on Noah, Jack said, watching his son build a tower with his blocks. He asks about her sometimes. I don't know what to tell him. Maybe, Emma said carefully, she had reasons you don't understand. Jack looked at her sharply. What kind of reasons justify abandoning your child? Emma flinched as if he'd struck her. Fear, she whispered. Sometimes people make choices out of fear that they regret for the rest of their lives. Before Jack could respond, Noah's voice piped up from the floor. I dreamed about my mom last night. Both adults turned to look at him. The boy had stopped building and was staring into the fire, his young face serious. What did you dream? Emma asked gently. She was sad, Noah said. Really, really sad. And she was looking for something she lost. Emma's hand flew to her chest, and Jack saw her fight back tears. Sometimes people in dreams are sad because they miss the people they love, Emma said softly. Noah nodded gravely. I think she misses me too. The words hit Emma like a physical blow. She stood abruptly, nearly knocking over her mug. I should check on my car. Emma, wait. Jack started, but she was already pulling on her coat. I just need some air, she said, her voice thick with emotion. Jack watched her go, every instinct telling him to follow. But something held him back, a fear that if he pushed too hard, she might disappear like morning mist, just like the other Emma had done 9 years ago. Emma stumbled through the snow, her vision blurred by tears she'd been holding back for hours. She'd found them. After 9 years of searching, of wondering, of carrying the weight of a choice that had destroyed her soul, she'd found her son. Noah was beautiful, so much more beautiful than she'd dared to hope. He had her eyes but Jack's stubborn chin, and when he smiled, it was like watching the sun rise after the longest night of her life. He was healthy and happy and loved, everything she'd prayed for during the dark years when she'd believed she'd never see him again. But he didn't know her. How could he? She was a stranger who'd abandoned him before he could even focus his eyes. She was the woman who'd believed the lies and walked away when he needed her most. Emma leaned against a pine tree, the bark rough against her palm. The snow was falling harder now, big flakes that caught in her hair and melted on her cheeks. She should leave. She should get in her car, if she could get it started, and drive away before she caused any more damage. But she couldn't move. For the first time in 9 years, she was close to her son. She could hear his laughter through the windows, could see the light from the home Jack had built for him. How could she walk away from that? Emma. She turned to find Jack standing behind her, his coat open despite the cold. Snow dusted his dark hair, and his eyes held a mixture of concern and something else, something that made her heart race with dangerous hope. "You shouldn't be out here," he said gently. "It's getting worse." "I should go," Emma said, her voice barely audible over the wind. "I shouldn't have come here." "Why did you come here?" Jack asked, stepping closer. "This isn't exactly on the way to anywhere." Emma closed her eyes, feeling the weight of 9 years of secrets pressing down on her shoulders. "I was looking for someone." "Who?" "Someone I lost a long time ago." Jack was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. "Did you find them?" Emma opened her eyes and looked toward the house, where warm light spilled from the windows. "I don't know. Maybe they don't want to be found. Maybe they've been waiting longer than you know." Something in his tone made Emma look at him more closely. His eyes held a depth of pain that matched her own, and for a wild moment, she wondered if he somehow knew. But that was impossible. Jack thought she was a stranger named Emma Rowan, not Emma Clark, the woman who disappeared from his life without explanation. "We should go inside," Jack said finally, "before we both freeze to death." Emma nodded, following him back toward the house. As they walked, she made a decision. She would stay one night, just one night, to be near her son. Tomorrow, she would leave and never come back. It would have to be enough. But as they stepped through the door and Noah looked up with those eyes so like her own, Emma realized that nothing would ever be enough to fill the hole in her heart. She had found her son, but she had lost him long ago, and all the money in the world couldn't buy back the years she'd thrown away. That night, as snow continued to fall outside, Emma sat by Noah's bedside reading him a story. Jack had offered to do it, but Noah had asked for Emma with the innocent trust that only children possess. Once upon a time, Emma read, her voice soft in the lamplight. There was a queen who lived in a castle made of ice. Was she a good queen or a bad queen? Noah asked, snuggling deeper into his blankets. She was a good queen who made bad choices, Emma said carefully. She loved her kingdom very much, but she was afraid that if she stayed, she might hurt the people she loved most. So she left. Yes, she left. But she never stopped thinking about her kingdom, especially about the young prince she left behind. Noah's eyes were heavy with sleep, but he was listening intently. Did she ever come back? Emma's throat tightened. The story doesn't say, but I think she wanted to, every single day. Maybe she was waiting for the right time, Noah said sleepily. Maybe she was waiting for the snow to stop. Emma brushed a strand of hair from his forehead, the gesture so natural it made her chest ache. Maybe she was. As Noah drifted off to sleep, Emma sat watching him breathe. 9 years ago, she'd held him for exactly 7 minutes before her father's lawyers had taken him away. She'd been 19, alone and terrified. They'd told her that Jack was dead, killed in a car accident while she was in labor. They'd told her that she was too young, too broken, too poor to raise a child alone. They'd lied. Her father had orchestrated the whole thing, paying off hospital staff, forging documents, creating an elaborate fiction to keep her from the man she loved and the child she'd carried. By the time she discovered the truth, Jack and Noah had disappeared, and no amount of money or private investigators could find them. Until now. He's beautiful when he sleeps. Emma turned to find Jack standing in the doorway, his expression unreadable. He looks like you, she said softly. He has his mother's eyes. Emma's breath caught. Did he know? Had he figured it out? Jack. The storm's getting worse, he said, cutting her off. You can't leave tonight. Maybe not tomorrow either. Emma nodded, not trusting her voice. Jack stepped into the room, moving to the other side of Noah's bed. For a moment, they stood there together, watching their son sleep. "Can I ask you something?" Jack said quietly. Emma nodded. "When you said you were looking for someone you lost, did you mean a child?" Emma's hands trembled. "Why would you ask that?" "Because you look at Noah like your heart is breaking." Emma closed her eyes, feeling the weight of 9 years of grief crash over her. "What if I told you that I was the worst kind of person? That I abandoned someone who needed me?" "I'd say that everyone makes mistakes," Jack said gently. "Even the worst ones can be forgiven." "Not this one, Emma." Jack's voice was so soft she almost didn't hear it. "Look at me." She raised her eyes to meet his, and in that moment, she saw recognition dawn in his face. He knew. Somehow he'd figured it out. "It's you," he whispered. "It's really you." Emma's carefully constructed composure crumbled. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry, Jack. I never meant to leave. I never wanted to hurt you." Jack moved around the bed, pulling her into his arms. She collapsed against his chest, 9 years of grief pouring out of her in broken sobs. "I thought you were dead," she whispered against his shirt. "They told me you died, and I believed them. I was so young and so scared, and I believed them." Jack held her tighter, his own eyes bright with tears. "Who told you I was dead?" "My father. The lawyers. They said you'd been in an accident, that you'd never wanted the baby anyway. They said I was too young to be a mother, that Noah would be better off adopted by a nice family." "Emma, no. I only held him for 7 minutes," she continued, the words tumbling out like water through a broken dam. 7 minutes, and then they took him away. I tried to fight, but I was so weak from the labor, and they had the papers already signed. They said it was for the best." Jack pulled back to look at her face, his hands gentle on her cheeks. "Your father did this?" Emma nodded miserably. "He never approved of us. Said you were beneath me, that you'd ruin my future. When I got pregnant, he was furious. He said he'd handle everything, that he'd make sure I never had to see you again." "But you did see me again," Jack said softly. "You came back. Not until it was too late. By the time I found out the truth, you and Noah had vanished. I hired private investigators, spent millions trying to find you. But you'd gone off the grid, changed your name." "We never changed our name," Jack said, confused. "Turner," Emma said with a bitter laugh. "I spent years looking for Jack Clark. I never thought to look for Jack Turner." Understanding dawned in Jack's eyes. "My mother's maiden name. I started using it after you left. I was so angry, so hurt. I wanted to be someone different." Emma nodded. "I only found you 3 months ago. A newspaper article about a local hero who'd saved a family from a flood. The picture was small, but I knew it was you." 3 months ago? "Emma, why didn't you come sooner?" Emma looked toward the window, where snow continued to fall. "Because I was dying." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Jack's face went white. "What do you mean dying?" "Pancreatic cancer," Emma said simply. "Stage 4. They gave me 6 months, maybe 8 if I was lucky." Jack's knees gave out, and he sank into the chair beside Noah's bed. No, you just found us. You can't." "I didn't come here to disrupt your lives," Emma said quickly. "I just wanted to see him once, to know that he was happy and loved. And he is, Jack. You've done such a beautiful job raising him. Emma, please. I never expected you to forgive me. I just wanted to see my son one more time before." Jack stood up abruptly, his face set with determination. Don't you dare talk like that. We just found each other again. Jack, be realistic." "No." His voice was fierce, desperate. "We lost 9 years. I'll be damned if we lose whatever time we have left." Emma stared at him, hope and fear warring in her chest. "You don't understand. I'm not the same person I was 9 years ago. The treatments, the pain, I'm broken, Jack. So was I, he said simply. For 9 years, I was broken. But you're here now, and so is our son, and that's all that matters. Emma looked at Noah, sleeping peacefully between them. He doesn't know who I am. Then we'll tell him. What if he hates me? What if he can't forgive me for leaving? Jack knelt beside her chair, taking her hands in his. Emma, look at me. Our son has been dreaming about his mother for years. He's been waiting for you without even knowing it. He won't hate you. He'll love you, because you're his mother, and because you came back. Emma's tears fell freely now. I don't know how to be a mother. I missed everything. His first steps, his first words, his first day of school. Then we'll make new memories, Jack said softly. Whatever time we have, we'll make it count. Emma looked into his eyes, seeing the same fierce love that had captured her heart years ago. Are you sure? Because once I tell him the truth, there's no going back. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Outside, the wind howled through the trees, but inside the small bedroom, a family was being reborn. Emma leaned forward and kissed Jack's forehead, tasting salt from her own tears. I love you, she whispered. I never stopped loving you. I love you too, he said. Both of you. My whole world. As they sat together in the lamplight, watching their son sleep, neither of them knew how much time they would have. But they knew it would be enough, because they would spend every moment of it together. Morning brought a world transformed by snow. Emma woke to the sound of Noah's laughter echoing through the house, and for a moment, she allowed herself to pretend that she belonged here. That this was her home, her family, her life. But the pain in her abdomen reminded her otherwise. The cancer was spreading, growing stronger each day. She had weeks, maybe a month if she was lucky, not enough time to truly know her son, but more than she dared to hope for. Emma? Jack's voice came from the doorway. How are you feeling? Like I'm living in a dream, she said honestly. Jack smiled, but his eyes were shadowed with worry. Noah's been asking about you. He wants to know if you'll help him build a snowman. Emma's heart clenched. I like that. As they walked downstairs together, Emma noticed how Jack stayed close, as if he was afraid she might disappear again. She understood the fear. She'd spent 9 years believing he was dead, and now he was facing the possibility of losing her again. Dad, look. Noah called from the living room window. It's like a winter wonderland. Emma joined him at the window, marveling at the pristine white landscape. The storm had passed, leaving behind a world that looked scrubbed clean and full of possibility. It's beautiful, she said softly. Like in the fairy tales. Noah agreed. Hey, Emma. Will you tell me another story tonight? Emma's breath caught. I'd love to. As they bundled up to go outside, Emma caught Jack watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. What? She asked. Nothing, he said. It's just seeing you with him. It's everything I used to dream about. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Jack, we need to talk about. Later, he said firmly. Right now, let's just be a family. Outside, they spent the morning building snowmen and having snowball fights. Emma marveled at Noah's energy, his infectious laughter, his boundless curiosity. He was everything she'd imagined and more. Smart, kind, funny, and utterly fearless. Emma watched this. Noah called, attempting to do a backflip in the snow. He landed in a heap, laughing hysterically. Very impressive, Emma said, helping him up. But maybe save the acrobatics for when there's less snow. My dad says I get my daredevil streak from my mom, Noah said casually. Emma's heart stopped. He does. Noah nodded. He says she was the bravest person he ever knew. Even when she was scared, she did what she thought was right. Emma looked at Jack, who was watching them with a soft smile. How much had he told Noah about her? How much did their son know? Emma, Noah said suddenly, his voice serious. Can I ask you something? Of course. Do you think people can love someone they've never met? Emma knelt down to his level, snow crunching beneath her knees. What do you mean? Like, if someone's mom went away before they could remember her, could they still love her? Emma's throat tightened. I think love doesn't need memory to exist. Sometimes it just lives in our hearts waiting. Noah nodded gravely. I think I love my mom, even though I don't remember her. Is that weird? Not weird at all, Emma whispered. I think that's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. That afternoon, while Noah napped, Emma and Jack sat by the fire, the weight of unspoken words heavy between them. We have to tell him, Emma said finally. Jack nodded. I know. But Emma, I need you to promise me something. What? Whatever happens, don't leave again. Not without saying goodbye. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Jack, I can't promise that. The cancer. I don't mean dying, he said fiercely. I mean running. Promise me you won't run away again. Emma reached for his hand. I promise. And promise me you'll fight. Whatever time we have, you'll fight for it. I'm tired of fighting, Emma said softly. I've been fighting for 9 years. Then fight for him, Jack said, nodding toward the stairs where Noah was sleeping. Fight for the little boy who's been dreaming about his mother. Fight for the chance to be the mother you always wanted to be. Emma looked into his eyes and saw her own desperate hope reflected there. Okay, she whispered. I'll fight. That evening, as they sat down for dinner, Noah looked at Emma with curious eyes. Emma, where do you live? He asked. I don't really have a home right now, Emma said carefully. I've been traveling a lot. Why? Emma glanced at Jack, who nodded encouragingly. I was looking for someone very important to me. Did you find them? Emma smiled through her tears. Yes, I think I did. Noah grinned. That's good. Everyone should have someone important. Yes, Emma said softly. They should. After dinner, Emma tucked Noah into bed, just as she had the night before. This time she lingered, memorizing every detail of his face. Emma, Noah said sleepily. Will you stay with us for a while? Emma's heart broke a little more. Would you like that? Yeah. I like having you here. It feels right. Emma kissed his forehead, breathing in the sweet scent of his hair. I like being here too. As Noah drifted off to sleep, Emma whispered the words she'd been holding in her heart for 9 years. I love you, my sweet boy. I love you so much. She thought he was asleep, but Noah's eyes fluttered open for just a moment. I love you too, Mom, he whispered. Emma's breath caught. He knew. Somehow, in the way that children sometimes know things without being told, he knew. How long have you known? She asked softly. Since yesterday, Noah said sleepily. You have the same eyes as me. And when you smile, it's like looking in a mirror. Emma's tears fell freely now. Are you angry with me? No, Noah said simply. I'm just glad you finally came home. And in that moment, despite the cancer, despite the years lost, despite the uncertain future, Emma felt something she hadn't felt in 9 years. She felt whole. The next weeks passed in a blur of precious moments. Emma moved into the guest room, and slowly, carefully, she began to build a life with the family she'd lost so long ago. She helped Noah with his homework, cooked meals with Jack, and listened to bedtime stories about dragons and knights and queens who found their way home. The cancer was getting worse. She could feel it in the way walking up the stairs left her breathless, in the way food tasted like ash, in the way sleep became an escape from the constant pain. But she didn't tell Jack or Noah. Not yet. She wanted to protect them from the truth as long as possible. One morning, Emma woke to find Noah standing beside her bed, his face worried. Mom, are you okay? You were crying in your sleep. Emma sat up slowly, her body protesting the movement. I'm fine, sweetheart. Just a bad dream. Noah climbed onto the bed beside her. Want to talk about it? Emma smiled at the role reversal, her 8-year-old son comforting her instead of the other way around. It was about leaving you again. But you're not going to leave, right? Noah asked, his voice small. Emma's heart shattered. Oh, baby. Come here. She pulled him into her arms, holding him tight. Noah, I need to tell you something, and it's going to be hard to hear. Noah pulled back to look at her, his eyes wide with fear. Are you sick? Emma nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. How sick? Noah asked, and Emma marveled at his maturity. Very sick, she said softly. The doctors say I don't have very long. Noah's face crumpled. But you just came back. You can't leave again. I don't want to, Emma said, her voice breaking. But sometimes we don't get to choose. Then we'll fight it, Noah said fiercely. Dad and I will take care of you, and we'll fight it together. Emma pulled him close again, breathing in his scent, memorizing the weight of him in her arms. We will. But Noah, I need you to promise me something. What? Promise me that if something happens to me, you'll remember that I love you. That I never stopped loving you, not for a single day. I promise, Noah whispered. But you have to promise me something too. What's that? Promise me you'll fight as hard as you can. Promise me you won't give up. Emma closed her eyes, feeling the weight of his trust. I promise. That evening, after Noah was asleep, Emma and Jack sat on the porch, watching the stars appear one by one in the clear mountain sky. He knows, Emma said quietly. Jack nodded. I figured he did. He's been asking a lot of questions about heaven lately. Emma's heart clenched. I'm scared, Jack. Not of dying. I've been dying for months. I'm scared of leaving him again. What if he thinks I abandoned him twice? Jack took her hand, his fingers warm against her cold ones. He won't think that. He knows you're fighting to stay. What if it's not enough? Then we'll make sure he knows how much you love him. Every day, every moment we have left. Emma leaned against his shoulder, drawing strength from his presence. I used to think I didn't deserve to be happy, that I'd made too many mistakes to ever have a real family. And now I think maybe happiness isn't about deserving it. Maybe it's about recognizing it when it finds you. Jack pressed a kiss to the top of her head. You found your way home, Emma. Whatever happens next, you found your way home. As the winter deepened, Emma's condition worsened. There were days when she couldn't get out of bed, when the pain was so intense she could barely breathe. But there were also good days when she felt strong enough to play in the snow with Noah, to help him with his school project, to curl up with Jack by the fire and pretend they were just a normal family. On one of the good days, Emma asked Jack to drive her into town. She had something she needed to do. At the lawyer's office, Emma signed over the deed to her father's estate, all of it to Jack and Noah. Millions of dollars, properties across the country, investments that would ensure Noah never wanted for anything. Emma, this is too much, Jack protested when she told him. It's not enough, Emma said firmly. It's blood money, Jack. Everything my father built was built on lies and manipulation. I want it to go to something good. I want it to give Noah the opportunities one never had. That night, as they lay in bed together, Emma turned to Jack with tears in her eyes. I have one more request, she said softly. Anything. When I'm gone, will you take Noah to see the ocean? He's never seen the ocean, and I always wanted to show him. Jack's voice was thick with emotion. Emma, promise me, she insisted. Promise me you'll take him to see the ocean, and you'll tell him that his mother loved him enough to give him the whole world. I promise, Jack whispered, pulling her close. But you're going to see the ocean too. We'll all go together. Emma smiled against his chest. I like that. But they both knew it wasn't true. Emma was getting weaker every day, and they were running out of time. The end came on a Tuesday morning in March, just as the first signs of spring were beginning to show. Emma woke to find Noah curled up beside her, his small hand resting on her arm. "Good morning, Mom," he said softly. "Good morning, my sweet boy." Emma could feel it, the way her body was shutting down, the way breathing was becoming harder. But she felt peaceful, surrounded by the love she'd thought she'd lost forever. "Noah," she said softly, "can you get your dad?" Noah nodded, sensing the importance of the moment. Within minutes, Jack was there, his face pale but composed. "Is it time?" he asked quietly. Emma nodded. "I think so." Jack climbed onto the bed, gathering both Emma and Noah into his arms. They stayed like that as the morning light streamed through the windows, painting everything in gold. "I love you both so much," Emma whispered. "More than all the stars in the sky." "We love you too, Mom," Noah said, his voice steady despite his tears. "Jack," Emma said, her voice growing weaker. "Take care of our boy." "Always," Jack promised. Emma closed her eyes, feeling the weight of 9 years of grief finally lifting from her shoulders. She had found her way home. She had held her son, loved her family, and been loved in return. It was enough. It was more than enough. 6 months later, Jack and Noah stood on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean, the wind whipping through their hair. In Jack's hands was a small wooden box, carved from the same cedar he'd used to make Emma's wedding ring. "Are you ready?" Jack asked softly. Noah nodded, his eyes bright with tears. "She would have loved this." "She did love it," Jack said. "She's here with us, Noah. She's in every wave, every sunset, every breath we take." Together, they opened the box and scattered Emma's ashes into the wind, watching as they danced over the waves like scattered stars. "Goodbye, Noah whispered. "Thank you for coming home." As they turned to leave, a wave crashed against the rocks below, sending spray high into the air. For just a moment, in the mist and the sunlight, Jack could swear he saw Emma's face, smiling at them with all the love in the world. She had kept her promise. She had fought until the very end. And in doing so, she had given them the greatest gift of all, the knowledge that love never truly dies. It just changes form, becoming something eternal and unbreakable. Jack put his arm around Noah's shoulders as they walked back to the car. "Tell me again about the cabin," Noah said, as he always did. And Jack smiled, beginning the story that had become their family legend, the story of a woman who was lost but found her way home, of a love that survived years of separation, and of a family that was broken but became whole again. It was a story about second chances, about forgiveness, and about the kind of love that transcends time itself. It was their story, and it would live forever in the hearts of everyone who heard it. The cabin stood exactly as Emma had dreamed it would, surrounded by a garden that bloomed with wildflowers each spring. Wind chimes hung from the porch, their gentle music carrying across the valley like whispered prayers. But it was no longer just Jack and Noah's home. It had become something more. Turner Haven, read the wooden sign by the gate. A place of healing. 13-year-old Noah hammered the final nail into a new cabin's porch railing, his movements sure and practiced. He had grown tall and strong, with his mother's eyes and his father's steady hands. The grief had shaped him but not broken him, turning him into a young man who understood both loss and love with wisdom beyond his years. "That's good work," Jack said, joining his son on the porch. Gray now touched his temples, and lines marked the corners of his eyes. Lines earned through years of laughter and tears, of building something meaningful from the ashes of heartbreak. "Mom would have liked this one," Noah said, stepping back to admire their work. "It faces east, so you can watch the sunrise." Jack smiled. Emma lived on in moments like these, in the way Noah spoke of her as if she might walk through the door at any moment. She would have loved it. The sound of voices drew their attention to the main cabin, where their newest guests were arriving. A young mother clutched her toddler's hand while her husband carried their bags, both parents wearing the hollow-eyed look of people who had lost everything they thought mattered. "Mr. Turner?" The woman called hesitantly. We spoke on the phone. I'm Sarah Chen. Jack walked over, his presence immediately calming. Welcome to Turner Haven, Sarah. We're glad you're here. Over the past 5 years, word had spread about the mountain retreat where broken families came to heal. They came from all over the country. Parents who had lost children, children who had lost parents, families torn apart by circumstance or choice. They came seeking the peace that could only be found in the mountains, in the community that Jack and Noah had built in Emma's memory. Dad, Noah said quietly, watching the Chen family settle into their cabin. Mrs. Chen asked me earlier if she'd ever stop missing her daughter. Jack looked at his son, remembering a similar conversation they'd had years ago. What did you tell her? I told her that missing someone isn't about forgetting them or getting over them. It's about learning to carry their love with you wherever you go. Jack's throat tightened with pride. That's exactly right. That evening, as they did every Tuesday, the residents of Turner Haven gathered around a fire pit in the clearing. Some shared their stories, others simply listened. Tonight, it was Sarah Chen who spoke, her voice trembling as she told them about her daughter who had died in a car accident. I don't know how to live without her, she finished, tears streaming down her face. Noah, who at 13 was often the youngest person in these circles, stood up. He walked to the main cabin and returned with a small wooden box, one of many that Jack had carved over the years. This belonged to my mom, he said, showing Sarah the box. She died when I was 8, after I'd only known her for a few months. Sarah looked up, surprised. She had assumed Noah and Jack were among the lucky ones, the families that had stayed intact. I used to think the box was just where I kept her things, Noah continued. Her ring, some letters she wrote, a picture of us together. But I realized that the box isn't what keeps her with me. The love is what keeps her with me. And love doesn't need a box. It just needs a heart willing to hold it. He knelt beside Sarah's chair. Your daughter isn't gone, Mrs. Chen. She's right here, he touched his chest, and here, he touched hers. The missing her means the loving her is still alive. Sarah broke down completely then, but they were healing tears, the kind that wash away the impossible weight of carrying grief alone. Later, as the fire died down and people drifted back to their cabins, Jack found Noah sitting on the porch steps, looking up at the stars. You were incredible tonight, Jack said, settling beside his son. I just told her what you taught me, Noah replied. What Mom taught me. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the night sounds of the forest. Dad, Noah said eventually, do you think she knows? About all this. He gestured toward the cabins scattered throughout the clearing. Jack looked at the place they had built together, not just the physical structures, but the community of healing, the legacy of love that had grown from Emma's sacrifice. I think she knows, Jack said softly. I think she's in every person who finds peace here, every family that discovers they're not alone in their grief. Noah nodded, then pulled something from his pocket, a small wooden figure that Jack had carved years ago. It was rough, imperfect, but recognizable as a woman with outstretched arms. I carry this everywhere, Noah said. It reminds me that she came back for me, even when it was hard, even when she was scared. Jack's eyes filled with tears. She would be so proud of the man you're becoming. I hope so, Noah said. I want to be the kind of person who helps people find their way home, just like she found her way back to us. As if summoned by their conversation, a car's headlights appeared on the mountain road. It was unusual for anyone to arrive so late, but emergencies didn't follow schedules. The car pulled up to the gate, and a man got out, moving slowly, uncertainly. He was older, maybe in his 60s, and even in the dim light, Jack could see the weight of sorrow in his shoulders. Are you Jack Turner? The man called. I am, Jack replied, walking toward the gate with Noah beside him. My name is David Morrison. I heard about this place from a friend in Denver. She said you help people who have lost family. Jack opened the gate, his expression gentle but alert. What happened, David? The older man's composure cracked. My son. We had a fight 20 years ago, and he left home. I was too proud to go after him, too stubborn to apologize. I just found out he died last month. Heart attack. I never got to tell him I was sorry. Noah stepped forward, and Jack marveled at his son's instinct for healing. Mr. Morrison, my mom used to say that love doesn't need the person to be there to be real. Maybe your son knew you loved him, even if you never got to say the words. David looked at the boy with surprise and something like hope. You really think so? I know so, Noah said with the certainty that only comes from living through loss and finding meaning in it. Love has a way of reaching people, even across time and distance. Jack put his hand on David's shoulder. Come inside. We'll get you settled, and tomorrow we'll talk about ways to honor your son's memory. As they walked toward the cabins, David asked, How long have you been doing this? Helping people like me. Since my wife died, Jack replied. She taught us that the best way to heal from loss is to help others do the same. She sounds like a remarkable woman. Noah smiled, his face bright with love and memory. She was. She fought cancer and grief and fear, but she never gave up on love. She came back to us when she was already dying, just to make sure we knew we were loved. David stopped walking, struck by the simple power of the story. She came back even though she was dying? That's what mothers do, Noah said simply. They find a way to love you, no matter what. Later that night, after David was settled and the mountain had grown quiet, Jack stood in the doorway of Noah's room, watching his son sleep. At 13, Noah was almost as tall as Emma had been, and sometimes, when the light hit him just right, Jack could see her face in his. Tomorrow would bring new guests, new stories of loss and hope. There would be tears and laughter, moments of despair and breakthrough. But tonight, Jack felt the presence of the woman who had made it all possible, the woman who had chosen love over fear, who had come home even when home meant saying goodbye. Thank you, he whispered into the darkness, the words carrying all the gratitude in his heart. And somewhere in the wind that rustled through the pines, in the gentle chiming of the wind chimes on the porch, in the steady breathing of the sun who carried her eyes and her heart, Emma's love continued to work its quiet magic, healing, restoring, and reminding everyone who found their way to Turner Haven that no love is ever truly lost. It just changes form, becoming something eternal and unbreakable, something that can turn even the deepest grief into a source of strength for others. The cabin in the woods had become exactly what Emma had dreamed it would be, not just a home, but a sanctuary where broken hearts could learn to beat again, where lost souls could find their way back to love. And in the mountains of Montana, where the wind carries secrets and the stars hold the light of distant dreams, the story continues. One family, one heart, one moment of healing at a time. The end. If this story of love, loss, and second chances touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up. It helps us share these tales with others who need hope. Tell us in the comments what moved you most, or simply where you're watching from around the world. Your words mean everything to us. If you'd like more stories about healing and the power of love, we'd be honored to have you subscribe and join our family. Thank you for being here today. Until next time, keep believing in miracles.